The AI shocker of this week was, you guessed it, again, DeepSeek. Like last year. You remember when it shocked the market and dropped NVDA and all the semiconductors early last year, and now it is back again with DeepSeek version 4 Flash. Now, this is not a frontier model in the classical sense. This is a quick, fast, small model. It is designed for maximum performance at minimum cost. Maximum, not in the sense that it's as good as Fable, but in the sense that it tries to squeeze the most juice out of a small model, so it becomes very, very cheap. And the shocker is what we saw, what the Chinese here released with this amazing new DeepSeek version. I'm a big fan of DeepSeek. We are using it also internally. We are also watching all the others, and we are using Grok, and we are using Claude and many others, but DeepSeek is very good. The shocker here is DeepSeek version 4 Flash is reducing cost per task by 99%, if you can believe that, compared to Fable 5. You see it down here, that not just that, but in certain benchmarks, like for example, Terminal Bench 2.1, it even beats it. It even beats it by performance. And that is nuts. We are going to go into the details here and what that actually means for the AI race, for semiconductors, for especially OpenAI, and for Anthropic, maybe also for SpaceX and Grok. How the Chinese keep catching up and shocking, not just catching up, but overtaking in terms of price-performance ratio, and how OpenAI was forced to react to this whole thing. So you see down there, unbelievable, token in, token out, cost 0.14 per million tokens, 14 cents per million tokens, as compared to Fable 5 at $10 per million tokens, and it beats it in that specific benchmark. You can imagine what that means. So here is a little bit more of a close-up view of the whole situation. So you see Terminal Bench, this thing actually beats nearly Opus 4.8, but it beats Fable amazingly. You see here NL2 repo, so you see a whole bunch of key benchmarks and the performance, and it's shockingly good. It gets beaten by Opus 4.8 still in most instances, but it's getting extremely close. Look at this, Agent's Last Exam, which is a very advanced thing, right? Agent's Last Exam, 25.2 versus 25.7. I'm not going to bore you with all these benchmarks, but the takeaway here is this Chinese hyper cheap model, this is about cheapness, okay, is beating the best models. So DeepSeek releases the production version 4 Flash 0731, which is just the date, on July 31st. And it is a 284 billion parameter model with 13 billion active parameters. So the whole model has 284, and it is a 13 billion active parameters model. So for comparison, the new Kimi K3 is a 2.8 trillion, something like that, parameters. So it is roughly 10 times smaller as a base model than the cutting edge open source models. But it is incredibly, incredibly efficient. It's priced at 14 cents input, 28 cents output per million tokens. That is 18 to 100 times cheaper than Claude, Opus, and GPT class models. Hey, on this channel, we do something very important. We deeply analyze, understand, and predict capital, AGI, and politics. Not just to beat the markets and make a lot of money, even though that's important, but also to build a new society and make the future good for all of us, the pioneers. If you want to help me on this journey, you can do that by doing a very simple thing: like and subscribe. It helps me a lot. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get back to the video. And as you probably know, in this new agentic age, intelligence is one thing. But if you get 10% less intelligence at 100 times less costs, you can basically run 100 times the amount of agents. So let that sink in. Think about this. Think about it in human terms, why costs actually matter. If you have an employee with 130 IQ and you have another employee with 120 IQ, let's say 115 to make the difference a little, like 10%. But the 115 IQ employee costs you 1% of the 130 IQ employee. What are you going to do? You're not necessarily going to fire the 130 IQ employee, but you're going to hire tons of that other cheaper employee. You have to really think about it like that. These agents become more and more like employees. They're like workers that you pay money. You pay $100 a month, or you pay $1,000 a month. Now imagine you get for $1,000 a month 100 of these agents instead of one of the other agent. Now that one might be able to do some more things a little better sometimes, but you can run 100 in parallel. And that also means that compensates you for IQ to some extent, because if you have a lot of agents reviewing each other, that can compensate for IQ to some extent. That's the whole nature of the agentic AI age, that you can have a lot of AIs looking over each other's shoulders, and that costs money. So would you rather have 100 cheap, 10% dumber agents that can actually check each other hundreds of times before they deliver to you that final result that is fully reviewed by all of them all the time, again and again? Or would you trust the smarter agent that is not reviewed, that didn't go through a board session where they discuss everything and brainstorm and review and do it again? I rather have a little dumber people doing more diligent, 100 times more diligent work than a little smarter person that has no time to do the work because he's too expensive. So that is crazy. And of course, the weights will be released very soon, I think this week. And then we have a truly open source model. And that actually triggered, and that's what we're going to look through in the weekly brief in Pioneerlands. We will look through what that actually means in terms of forcing, for example, OpenAI to react to this whole thing. OpenAI had to reduce their costs. Well, at least they did it. They don't admit they were forced by it, but just coincidentally, they decided to drop their costs by 80%. And so we are going into that. We are going into a head-to-head comparison. DeepSeek for Flash versus OpenAI GPT 5.6 Luna. We will look closer to this cost per task. There are some things to consider. We look at the new efficient frontier curves and where this margin actually can go. And then we get to the weekly bottom line. That is all in the weekly brief. To see the full weekly brief, go to pioneerlands.org. Every single week, we will cover the most exciting and important news from the AI frontier, from Grok, Anthropic, Claude, ChatGPT, and the Chinese models, of course, so you are up to date and understand how the world is changing very rapidly right now. Also, by the way, we have a capital and stocks weekly update, and we have a political weekly brief now, all on pioneerlands.org. So I hope to see you there.